Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours for Monday, November 5th. That happened all of a sudden. And we are here with Jenny and Bonnie and other Bonnie and Wendy and Leslie and Chris. Welcome all. And we've got a few things on the agenda for this morning. If anybody has specific topics they want to hit or questions they want to add, can you drop them in the chat for me so that I can try and guide us through in a logical progression and not just bounce all over like a pinball machine. Okay, so we were just talking about a workshop that I took on the weekend about how to hit a bestseller list, which was a fascinating workshop done by Cora Seaton, who is a Victoria-based romance author. And yeah, it was really good. She was very factual, very to the point, very open about her strategies and how everything worked. And is writing a book. So I'm hoping she gets that out quickly. But anyway, we'll watch for that and let you know when it's eventually ready. But I think she's been on the list like 8 times in box sets and 15 independently or something like that. And she's only been writing for 5 years. So, you know, yeah, she definitely was very businesslike about how she did it and the strategies that she used and everything else. So I'm hoping we can get her on here to do a workshop for us as well and capture some of that stuff. And yeah, so that was really interesting. So one of the biggest things that I think she was communicating was strategy around how you roll out a series and how you plan a series, that it needs to be this overall, there's got to be some overall arc in the story that drives people to make it all the way through. And she was suggesting that 3 to 5 books was kind of the sweet spot in terms of a mini series or whatever, and that you would release the first book and then the second book and then the third book in quick succession, which, you know, in her world was about 6 weeks apart, I think she said, for those first 3. So you have them all pre-written, right? You're not releasing till it's all ready, but was to have all the covers done in advance, to have all that ready, and you would release. Well, and actually for her timetable in the first one, she said it was actually 3 months. 3.5 months she did the first time, because they're longer books, and she did 3 in a year. And when the third one came out, she made the first one free and then applied for a BookBub for the free one at the same month that the third one was releasing, which they quite like as a thing. So she had actually had almost a year of that book being out and generating revenue off that book before she turned it free. So it had already well paid for itself by that point, you know, and any of her readers who were sort of the very doting fans had all purchased it already by that point. And, you know, they'd had long enough that no one would be sad it went free, you know, and feel like they got ripped off because they were loyal and bought it right away. So, you know, enough of a gap that's the case, that nobody's really feeling upset about that. And then she waited 6 months to release book 4, because then you can reapply for a BookBub on that same free book, right? You can only get one book, can only be featured every 6 months. So she waited until that book could be featured again, applied for that, and then book 4 hit the list too, right? So she actually got like 3 list spots from releasing that way. It was book 3, 4, and 5 all hit the list. And then that one was the USA Today bestseller. They used to do, like the New York Times used to let you hit the bestseller list with a box set, but they don't do that anymore. So the multi-author stuff doesn't really work for those lists.
So it was her 5th book or her 3rd book that hit that bestseller list?
3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Okay, so all of them.
Yeah, all of them. So, you know, part of it is knowing what is your strategy, like what is your intent. If your intent is to hit a bestseller list, it's quite a different release strategy than if you're going for, you know, building your catalog up front or whatever. So Okay, so a question from Teddy. I thought you couldn't get a feature deal with a free book. Totally not true. They love free books, and it's cheaper to get a feature deal with a free book than it is with paid ones. And you know, her advice, having tried all of the different ones, was that the response you will get on your other books and everything else from doing a free deal versus like a 99-cent feature will be way, way, way better than doing like a 99-cent one. So that if you have a shot at that, then that's what you should take. But they tend to only choose the free ones if they love if it's part of a series. They love if there's a new book launching in that series at the same time as your deal goes free. And they also prefer if it's a newer free book. Like if it's just gone to perma-free and it's kind of one of your first shots at getting a BookBub, then you'll have a better shot at that if you have a new book out. Because the way BookBub makes their money is through their affiliate links. And so what they need is something for those people to buy. So a free one is great, but they need them to buy your other stuff in quick succession. So what they want is a good book that people are going to love and then keep reading through on the series. So that's what they're looking for, really. And a question on how do you get a deal with BookBub? Have you got a session on that? So we've talked about that a handful of times in office hours. If you look through, you'll see that. I haven't done a specific session on that, but there are a couple of really good help articles and tutorials on that I've linked in the Connect with Readers section. So I'm going to put a note to myself to re-highlight the BookBub promo stuff. If you go into, and I might just do a screen share on this one actually so that you can all see exactly where I mean. If you go into your Ring Central and you find the Connect with Readers section, if you have your sidebar open, hopefully you can all see that. If you have your sidebar open and you scroll down, it features the links that we've had in here before. Okay, so I don't know if it tells you all of them. This looks like it might have abbreviated some. Let me just see here. Either that or I put it in Build Your Brand, which is also possible. Okay. Well, it might not be featuring them all. That might be what's happening. It's keeping only the most recent. So what I will do is I will go back in and repost these to pull them back to the top of the stream, and I'll make sure I put them under the office hours. But there is a selection of how to get a BookBub feature deal. And these are created by BookBub, and they're telling you exactly what they want. But there's info in about 3 different places. So I pulled all that info and put it there. And then I don't think I've posted it yet, but I was doing a checklist. But I'll finish it now that I have the rest of the info from her. One of the most, I think, helpful things that Cora said was that when you're applying for your BookBub, there's a little box that says, do you have anything else you want to add? And most people kind of ignore that, but she said that's the key to getting your acceptance. If you check that you do want to add some things, and then you put in there, my book has the 4.5 average review out of whatever reviews on XYZ platforms. And so that's where you're going to argue your case, basically, of why they should take you. If you have 5,000 newsletter followers, you can tell them that. Basically, anything that you would say to pitch yourself as a good bet, as someone whose books people enjoy and whatever else. So that's something that you can add, and you can use that space to highlight all the reasons why they should choose you. A couple other things that help: if you have not yet claimed your author profile and asked all your people to follow you on BookBub, you should do that. They want to see that you're engaged there and that stuff is going on. You're part of their community. Also, if you can get some of your reviewers or your ARC team to review on BookBub, that's a great way also for them to have an easy in-house way to check your reviews and just see what the response is of people to your books. So that's a good thing to do. And And it does not hurt to be, if you are using ads, to be using just a handful of BookBub ads. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but just to let them show you're serious about your business side of things and you're doing that. So, yeah. So a dilemma is, if it takes several tries to get a BookBub feature deal, how can you line it up with a new release? Right. So you want to try to get one in the month that your new release comes out, but then you keep trying every month if you didn't get one, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the thing, is you can reapply once every 30 days for each book. And so you just keep applying until you're successful, basically. And that's the thing. There is no guarantee that all of these pieces will line up at the same time, but you're buying lottery tickets is what you're doing. So the more of the right pieces you have in place, the more luck you have with that.
If you had a new book that was virtually ready to go out and you applied like a month and a half or something before that for a BookBub deal and you didn't get it and you reapplied, would you hold off your release just in case? Or
that depends what you put out.
It didn't really matter one way or the other?
Yeah, that depends what you've put out in the public already. Like if you've announced your release date to try and build some buzz around it, then you still need to go ahead with your release. But if you didn't tell anyone that it was going to happen, then maybe you don't need to, right? So so that would be your other things box is, I have a new book, it's set to release, blah, blah, blah. It'll release on the, within the same month as whatever the feature deal is or whatever. Because you get a 30-day window on most of your affiliate links, right? And that's why that matters, is that if people click through your free book using the affiliate link and then they buy a paid thing within 30 days, that's how BookBub gets their money. So it's the most clever affiliate-based income stream program that I've ever seen. Like, and then they managed to monetize it with ad revenue and all these other things that they're putting into place. But affiliate links were kind of the original point of this service. That was how they were doing it. So, and yeah, so the thing is that BookBub prefers wide because that's more channels they can make their money on. But they don't specifically require that it's wide. They will let you get a feature deal if you're just in KU. Several people have been successful with that, but you really have to be rocking it. Like, you've got to have enough traffic, enough sales, enough reviews, all of that stuff. But yeah, definitely don't not try for it. That's definitely a thing. So give that a shot.
Kind of a chicken and egg thing.
And it depends, right? Like, is your goal to hit a list, or is your goal just to have good sales? Those are two different strategies, right? If your goal is just to have good sales, then it doesn't matter when you get that BookBub feature. You just keep promoting, and on the assumption that when that hits, people will buy through, and then you'll keep going. But one of the other, I think, really good recommendations was, if you are not seeing organic sales without ads, you should not be pumping a bunch of money into ads, because if you're not getting any organic sales, it means that something's wrong, whether it's your cover or your blurb or the categories you're in. If you're not seeing sales in the first place, then you're not going to have the success of the read through that you need. So that's that failure arc we were talking about, the failure cycle, from David Gaukeran's Strangers to Superfans book, is you got to make sure that you're not losing people, at step 1 and 2 of the process. They've got to make it all the way to the end to make a lot of these promotional strategies really work for you the way you want them to, right?
Yeah, but that's not a simple problem to solve. I mean, if that's your problem, which is my problem.
Mine too.
It doesn't matter what you read. It doesn't matter how many webinars you listen to. There is no secret to cracking that. You're just sitting here in a big black box, not understanding why.
Right. And so, the only way to kind of address that is to look at just changing one thing at a time and seeing what gets you the responses, right? So, like Teddy, you're changing your covers as a next step in experimenting, changing book blurbs as a next step, changing the way you interact with people. Like, there are all of these pieces. And it doesn't mean you need to see sales of, hundreds of thousands of people before that's relevant, but just you want to make sure that the building blocks you have. It's like your foundation on your house needs to be as solid as it possibly can, or you can build all you want on top of it and it'll just collapse the first wind, right? So that's the only thing. It's just to make sure that if you've got your product and you get that push, you get a BookBub, that the people who are reading it are going to be happy with it and keep on reading, right? And so that's the thing. Otherwise, you end up kind of stuck, which isn't ideal, right?
Welcome
okay.
to my world. Okay.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not fun. It's super frustrating. And, you know, we can tackle micro pieces. Like if people want to volunteer to be a case study and they want to put up their blurb, their cover, their book as a discussion point, I'm happy to do that. But it's hard and it's harsh, and often people get their feelings hurt. So I'm totally willing to help with that feedback. And
thrilled to have someone solve my problems for me. It's not about feelings. It's about being completely baffled. That's what, you know, like not having a clue where to go next.
Right. Okay. And so fair. So if we want to do some case studies, I'm happy to do that. Send me a note through Glip or wherever, and, you know, do some troubleshooting on that. But change is hard. You have to be open to actually listening to people's feedback. So as long as you're coming at it with I get that I may not hear what I want to hear, but I will hear what I need to hear, then, you know, the potential is there for a change. But the biggest thing that I think, you know, Cora was talking about, the specificity and importance of your branding and knowing exactly who your audience is. So if you write books about Navy SEALs who are just about done with their time in the military, are looking to start a new life and, you know, want to be ranchers, like that's the specific of a niche that she's looking at. So like, but you need to go and troll online and use Kindle Spy or use, you know, Klytics or whatever to see where are the niches where people are making the big money. If that is your goal, you know, you want to make sure a certain amount of authors in the category you've chosen are over a certain amount of income every month to see if the readers are even there. And that's the other piece, right? Is you need to make sure the matching is happening, that there's actually readers there ready to receive what it is you're putting out there in that right category. Okay, I'm just gonna see here. Chris just launched Kindle Countdown for Plague today. Any advice of how to push that out? I guess the start would be, what have you already done? So we don't spend all the time on what might be. Chris, can you give us a quick rundown of what you already did?
Chris is getting coffee.
Yeah, okay. So what's happened to Also Bots is the next one. So they're oh, he's back. Okay. You're muted. You got to unmute. There
I'm
you
back.
go.
Hooray.
Okay.
Sorry, I lost you there for a moment. I didn't go for coffee. So, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yes, what have I already done? Well, I've been sort of madly busy. So I haven't done as much as I might have. I've taken out today was a Choosy Bookworm newsletter, so that was there. I've got Thursday, I've got Bargain Booksy happening. I've solicited my powerful Uber friends. So I've done a couple of some social media stuff, some special tweets, and I did a couple of Photoshop images. You know, one for Twitter, one for Facebook, one for actually the same one for Instagram, where I do not have a lot of followers. But then I've got, as I say, my powerful friends to retweet. So Diana's done it, Diana Gabaldon. I did an appearance with Diana in Scottsdale last week, which was amazing. I mean, mainly for her, obviously, 500 people in a ballroom. She's a total rock star. But I was able to get some spin-off from that. I mean, so I sold all the books I brought and had lots of people signing up and going to order. So Diana's doing a BookBub recommendation, as is Jonas Saul, as is Robert Dugoni. But that's kind of it so far.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing all the things. Like, I don't know how much else there is to do in the virtual space other than, if there are any specific, there's a guy on Fiverr that you can get to do promos that, you pay them like $5 or $10 and they push it out to about 50 sites on your behalf. But I think most of them are free or 99-cent books. There's
mine's
not so many that's $1.99. So that's
Mine's
a trickier price point, but you could take a look because there are some options, which is probably too late for this one, but for next time you do that, that would be the only other suggestion I would have, because then you're not chasing a million places. Just make sure you poke around a little bit make sure they're not doing it in a spammy way for other people.
Right.
Can I put a link to the Fiverr guy? Yes, I can. I have pulled up a couple, and you have to watch. There's a few of them, and they will sometimes close down for when they'll go on vacation for a few days or whatever, and so that's something to watch for. But let me just see.
Hey, Chris, I have some feedback that was just something that confused me, because I just recently, like this summer, put Kindle on my phone. And so I was like looking for things and downloading things to read on my phone. And I downloaded, I guess it was just a teaser for Plague.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that that's what it was. And I got to the end of what I was reading, and then I was like stuck because I couldn't figure out how to buy the book, which apparently now it's because it wasn't really out yet. But when I downloaded that teaser, it wasn't clear that it was just that.
Are you in the States or in?
Yeah, I'm in the States.
Oh, right. Okay. So yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure why that would be. I mean, you'd be able to download it now, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have an answer for you, I'm afraid.
Yep. So here it is. This is what I downloaded, and it was probably August.
Right. Yes, because I did have it up, but I haven't. But I've changed the cover now, and I've also done a. It should be. So you were able to download a teaser then, huh?
Yep. I'm trying to see how far I got. Hold on.
Did you download the teaser as like on Amazon? It was read a sample, or it was from like a book funnel free download or something?
No, because I've been going to Surrey for years. So I think, Chris, I saw you were going to be there, and I decided to read your latest book before I went.
Oh, well, I wasn't.
Because I've read your books before, so.
Oh, right. I wasn't at Surrey this year, of course, but.
No, you weren't, but I was.
Oh, well, congrats. You all went. I was the only one who wasn't there.
I'm trying to see how far I got. I don't know. I can't get down to the end. But
okay. So yeah, I guess just always double checking that any of your read through paths go to somewhere that you want, and that does need to be updated on a pretty regular basis. So making sure if you're republishing something with an update, you go back to your other books in your catalog, and that you make sure your linking is still good and how that's working out.
You mean you go back to Chasing the Wind and
yeah, make sure that everything you have is updated to the latest cover, the latest whatever. Like if you put a preview in a previous book, or you've got to also buy whatever, you just need to go back and check and make sure that your links are still working if you've republished the one that follows on, right?
Ah, right. Okay. I'll do that.
Just as a best practice thing, it's good to make
Okay.
sure you're doing that on kind of a cycling basis. I have just a recurring automatic task in Asana once a month that pops up and tells me, check your also bots, or check your also buys, not the also bots, check your also buys and make sure they're all accurate. Because if you add a new thing or you change the language you're using at the end of the book stuff. So one of the things that has changed in the last little while, and I'm not sure exactly when, is that when you open a book on Kindle, it now starts at chapter 1. None of your front matter is visible unless people actively scroll back.
Oh.
And when you get to, so nobody's seeing anything that happens before chapter 1 unless they're purposely scrolling back. Some people do, but not a lot, I'm guessing. So, and when you get to the end, as soon as you get to the end of the first chapter, that screen pops up from Amazon that's like, rate this book and here's some more books you can read. So a lot of people are not seeing the back matter anymore either. So one of the things I did that worked really well was at the end of the first chapter, I inserted just a little blurb of text that says like, this is the next book in the series. Keep reading for a preview if you've included a preview chapter so that they know to keep going past that screen. People think they've hit the end when that Amazon screen pops up. So if you tell them to keep reading, then they often will push past it. And then the other piece is if you've got a newsletter sign up in your back matter and your front matter, they're still not seeing it. So also a little link to your quick subscribe form at the end of chapter 1, and let it be again after like in the end matter. You can still leave it in there. If by some chance they flick past that end of book screen and they get to the back matter, then you want to have it in there again for them to see. But, you know, just so you don't miss them completely, because, you know, yeah, I've noticed that a few times as I'm reading, people didn't have anything in between those spaces. So yeah, just make sure you've bumped that up to the end of chapter 1. Don't put it in as its own section. Like actually at the end of chapter 1 text, put like, you know, **** or whatever, and insert the information right there.
Mm.
Does anybody need to see that, or does that make sense?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. That will you'll notice that'll make a really big difference. I changed only that. I moved the location of the link to my back matter, and I tripled my monthly newsletter signups. That was the only change I made. So, you know, that felt very well worth it to go back and do that in every book and just hit republish. Yeah, definitely worthwhile. Okay, so what's happening with also bots? And this is an interesting thing. There's some discussion around this because some books are still showing also bots and some are only showing ads. They're only showing sponsored related products now at the bottom. So the general consensus is that Amazon is testing. They're doing split testing to see if ad performance goes up, I think, based on removing the also bots as the thing that it jumps to. So that will be interesting to see how that happens. Now, don't panic. They're not getting rid of the tracking of also bots, because that is how they decide who's going to buy what books and know who to push stuff to. So it's all still happening on the back end. They're just not making it as obvious to people on the front end that they can see that. So one of the things you can do, thank you to Teddy for sharing this tool last time, was the oops, that did auto-corrected to something weird. Ignore that. Let's try that again. No autocorrect. Yasiv.com is what you actually want. And it's a site where you put in your book and then you see the cloud of things around it. How many people are familiar with that? Just like quick show of hands. Okay. And so the way you can use that is to see what other books are being purchased that are like yours, and how you fit into that. So as far as doing some troubleshooting around why your books may or may not be having people make it through that failure cycle, that's a really good tool to find out who are the people in your cloud of things, right? Do we want to run through that as an exercise? Is that useful right now? Just to like,
yeah, that'd be great.
Pull up a book and see how it works. And okay, volunteers?
Sure, do mine. Do plague.
Do plague. Okay.
But I'm happy to. Anyone else wants to go for?
While she's doing that, Chris, it was 4 chapters that I got on that initial download, and then I tried to go back and figure out how to download the rest of it and couldn't, so I just kind of got stuck.
Oh, that's odd.
How new a release is Plague?
Well, it's been, I've had it up for a couple of months, but I'm only really pushing it now. I've got the Kindle countdown today.
Is it in books or is it in ebooks, Crystal?
In ebooks, though it is also available on POD, but it's in the Kindle store, yeah.
And sometimes, depending on how new the release is, you have to use the ISBN instead of the title or author in this search.
Oh, in Yassiv?
Sometimes. If you start with the title or the author and nothing comes up, use the ASIN.
Aha.
Okay, so it shows you the info here. Get the cover, which is the new cover, which looked great. And
it's not scrolling down yet. Well, it's still loading too.
yeah. It's 80%, 100%. There we go. Okay. So here's what we get. Okay, so you've got reviews, you've got close. Let's see here. Okay, so we go in here. What this shows us is where it's fitting in and amongst other things, right? So people who bought this also bought. And what's interesting is you've got a lot of very long tail things. And I'm guessing that's because out here on these fringes, we're going to find all the Outlander books in one of them, and we're going to find Jonas's books in another, because they're not really in your genre necessarily, right? And so that's where you get these like really long webs that shoot off really far into other places.
Ah, gotcha.
You might have like friends who are influencers, but they don't necessarily relate back to your specifics. So you've got a really big web, right? So I'm really curious to see who's out here in these outliers. Just because it's showing how your stuff is related to other things. Now it may just be that these are a completely different genre. But it's useful to know. Okay, so this is a cloud of a single author, which means their branding is strong, and the people who are buying them are buying all of them.
Right.
Which is interesting, right?
Who is it?
So there's a few different people. There's Howard of Warwick.
Oh.
There's Anna Castle. There's Tony Mount. A few other things here.
These are all indie published as well, aren't they? I would say most of them.
Yep. But I think they're also around like medieval. They're looking very medieval-ish, you know, like time period relevant. So you'll get clusters around different topics, which is interesting, right?
And you've got haunted up in the reviews now on the right. Not.
Yeah, I closed it and it went to that. It didn't stay on yours. I'm not sure why, but that's okay.
I was saying she had problems with the romance between Matt and Darcy. I thought, who are they?
Yeah. So these are all. I can't make it find yours again in here, and I'm not sure why it closed it out. But anyway, so in here, what you want to do is poke around. Plagues in the middle here. You want to poke around and see what the most strong connections are to these different clusters of books, and see who's in them and what the colors look like, and you know what you want ideally is for your books to be in a cluster in the middle, that for people who bought one of your books bought a bunch of your books. Right. So that's one of the things you want to check for. Now we can find out Chasing the Wind. Let's just see where that one fits in the web. Okay, we're back to Blake. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. The also bots are not on yours now. So they're testing that, I guess, on that way. Some of mine have them, some of them don't. It's very interesting. Okay. So you can see Chasing the Wind is associated with extremely different things. It's a very different readership that's buying Chasing the Wind than is buying Plague, right?
Right, yes, absolutely.
Because you can see, like, there's a pretty consistent cover vibe, and like Jill Childs turns up in a whole bunch. And
follow the arrow that's coming in to chase the wind down in the lower left-hand corner. Let's see.
The girl in the letter.
Yeah. So, sorry, how do the...
Oh, no, it goes past it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes past it.
How do you actually read this in terms of who are your most, your closest people?
It's this one that has the blue. I can't, of course.
Yeah, the darkest hour is the one that's actually people who bought that then bought your book.
Oh.
So what we're reading here.
Sorry, how do you read that, Crystal? How do you read that?
I mean, you're looking for the connections. The arrows show you the directionality of somebody who bought this book also bought this book. Right? People, right. This one has them in both directions. So people who bought this bought that, and people who bought that. So what you really want is the most interconnected, like woven little map you can possibly get for your stories, right?
And ideally, you want lots of arrows pointing at your book rather than pointing away.
Right.
Yes, exactly. So this one has a ton of stuff coming into it.
Right.
Lots of other people who bought that also bought this.
Right.
Okay. So like this one has a lot of incoming. So what I would be curious to see is how much paid advertising the ones who have a lot of other things pointing into them are doing, because it may be that people are getting pulled in from those ads. I'm not sure. You'd have to go investigate that by clicking around and looking at stuff. But one of the ways to tell if you are tightly on genre is, are your books all together? Or if you're writing in like so many different places, your books will not all be clumped together, which means you're finding a new reader pool in every single one of those places. Right.
Which is the case with me, of course, because I'm such a butterfly mind.
Yeah. Okay, let's do another one. Who wants to throw their book out here?
You can do one of mine, that's fine.
Okay. Which title?
Let's do The Boss Man.
Whoop. Came up automatically. There we go. Okay.
Go down. Oh, you're almost on it. Go over to the left and down a bit.
Here we go.
And
There's a whole bunch of years in there. There we go. There's one we're looking for. Okay. Description. Let's see. So this is saying customers often buy this product with, and then it shows you other books that it's frequently associated with. All of these are Teddy's, which is a win. It means that people are clicking through, they're reading the other books as well, which is great. So when we scroll in here, we can also see pretty direct linkages in from different sections, right? So it's interesting to do like a cover scan. I often find this with mine too, where there'll be like a whole group of covers with like half naked dudes on them, and then like not.
Right.
Yeah. And this is interesting. This is a very tight little group. Again, which is another author who's got some pretty strong branding and pulled them all together.
He's got British nobility titles in all his titles, so that's why.
Yeah.
Brit.
Well, and if you've got a strong readership and you are niched in, then you will see those clusters, right? Like stuff will all, people will be reading through and finding similar ones. And what you want is for there to be like some of these ones that are close. If you can find enough of a connection, then those might be good people to do a newsletter swap with, right? Mm-hmm. Or to do a box set with, or to look at doing some kind of cross promotion. So yeah, it's just an interesting tool to play with and see where those connections are, and how things are kind of coming together. Okay. Stop sharing here for a minute. Okay. What else have we got in here for questions? Okay. Okay, I put in a ton of links. I haven't tested all of those Fiverr people. They're just the ones that I picked out as ones I was going to try for various things. And some of them have their gig turned off right now, so you can't actually book them for stuff. You just have to poke through. And if you look for promoting book on Fiverr, or promoting free book on Fiverr, or promoting $1.99 book on Fiverr, they will pop up with a list of people who are willing to take that on, and it will tell you exactly what they're willing to do for the $5 or $10 or whatever it is. So that's just, you'll have to poke around there yourself and see what you see, but yeah, worth taking a look at for sure. Okay, so any more questions at the moment that haven't popped up in there, or like follow-up questions on things?
I have some new information.
Yeah, that's good.
Me?
I'm kind of late.
Okay.
What is? I'm sorry.
Okay, I think we got some weird internet issues going on here. Joanne has new information. Let's start with Joanne, and then I think I don't know if it was Jenny or Leanne who was in the background that I heard, but we'll follow up with that after. All right, Joanne.
Okay. Thanks, Crystal. The news that I had, the new news, is concerning getting your reviews transferred over to a new title within when you change titles. So I'm rebranding my series. I have the same series name consistently with the old titles and the new ones, but the titles themselves have all changed. So I've had to also create new get new ISBNs, and I understood that I could not transfer Amazon reviews from the old book to the new, and I got in touch with Amazon and explained the situation, and they have sent me in writing that yes, they will do that, and they gave me opened up their telephone call option to me, and as soon as the new book goes live, I phone them, they transfer the reviews over, and then I can take the old book down. So that's really good news.
Awesome. That's great.
It is good news, because I'm going to be doing that later this next year. And who are you? I don't see your name at the top of my.
Oh, that's Joanne writes under JP McLean.
Joanne, JP.
Okay. I may be contacting you when I need to do that myself later.
Sure.
All right.
Excuse me, somebody's knocking at the door.
And then somebody, I don't know if it was Jenny or Leanne, also
Jenny
had started a question.
So sorry, I have to go.
I was trying to unmute myself, and I'm sorry. I'm always like looking up here. I've got dual screens, and my laptop is here where my camera is, but you guys are all up here. My question was about Fiverr, because I'm just starting to get back into this, so I'm not even sure what that was. I see all the links, but I'm not sure really what it is.
Oh, so Fiverr is like an online site where you can go and get a lot of things for $5 or a bit more. You know, like it's a cheap kind of clearinghouse for getting things done. So those are all those links were people you can pay $5 or $10 or $15 to, and they will push your book promo out to a whole bunch of different channels. So there's a lot of different ways that they do it, and a lot of different channels, and some are romance specific. Some have built up like a really big blog following or social media following, and you pay them $5 and they put it out to their followers. Other people are charging you, $10, and they'll put it on 10 different promo sites for you. They'll like take care of the listing part so that you don't have to spend all your time on that. So if you're going to just run a 99-cent promo on one of your books for a week, you can tap somebody on Fiverr and pay them their $5 or $10, and they will take care of putting it in all the spots that you might want people to know about it, and you don't have to do that then. So that's not a bad, those are pretty cheap investment, and often people get pretty good response. At least you'll get not crickets, which is a positive thing. So yeah, because if you just put something on promo, does not mean anybody's going to find it. You got to tell them about it. So anything that's free and anything that is 99 cents is a really good bet for pretty much any site is willing to feature that. And a lot of them are fine with permafreeze as well. So, you know, just look at the guidelines. It's not a bad idea. If you have a perma-free book, to just throw a Fiverr ad every 2 or 3 months at it, you know, especially if it's seasonally appropriate, and just call people's attention to it and see what happens, basically.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, pretty minimal investment, and, you know, there's not so much to know about how it's being done. So it's not like you need to study for 6 weeks on it, making an ad before you can engage that little system.
Cool, thank you.
I feel like there was, oh yeah, so launch strategy was the other thing. Differing launch strategies was something that we've kind of had on the back burner a little bit in the last little while. And I've just realized I completely forgot to post the office hours from last time, which was going to have the little list of tasks on it. So I, cross my heart, will do that as soon as our meeting with the instructors is over this morning. And what is there any particular launch challenge or any particular aspect on a launch strategy side of things that people would like to talk about right now? And then we can tackle that a little bit.
I would like to, I want to make sure that I can get the algorithm going on my books. And I don't know how to, when I launch, I think, okay. And I don't know how to do that.
Okay. So looking at, first of all, what we're talking about with the algorithm is getting enough purchases through Facebook with the right kind of people to populate those also bots, which the purpose of that is really to tell Facebook who's going to want to buy your book. And they need a couple of 100 people.
Facebook?
Or, sorry, Amazon.
Okay.
To get
Amazon. No wonder I haven't been successful.
No. Sorry, I've got like all these notifications about Facebook ads things popping up in front of me. No, Amazon. You really want to be able to get Amazon's algorithm working for you. So right. After a couple 100 people buy your book, as long as they have enough in common. So think about those arrows going out from that cloud that we saw on yasafe.com, right? If you have arrows going to completely different types of books, like all over in this giant web of things that don't appear to be related in any clear way, that's hard for Amazon to know which people are going to buy your book. Because people who like books about hiking, kayaking, writing, romance, you know, and mystery, they don't really know what their best bet at selling that is. So you need to make sure that the people who are buying those first bunch of books are specific category readers in your world, right? Now, whether it's that they've also previously bought your own books, that's also very useful, because Amazon will use that information to send out a notice to people who've bought your books in the past. And I have had this activate multiple times, and it does great things for sales. You know, and when you see a spike and you're like, where did that come from? That's often where it's coming from, is Amazon has sent out a little message to people who previously bought your book but aren't necessarily following you on Amazon. And they will just send it out and say, hey, in the past, you've bought these books by this author. You might also like this new one. And that will trigger, again, more of the right kind of people. But the way to do that is primarily through your mailing list or through very targeted promo site ads. So, you know, your mailing list is the best and easiest and most effective and efficient one. If you have done really targeted promos in BookFunnel or InstaFreebie or wherever you're doing it, if you have really niched down and you've done a promo for paranormal romance with witches that are, you know, set in urban settings. Like if you've been part of a collection that was all those books, then those people on your list are a really good targeted group of people, if that's the books that you're writing, right? if you are doing historical romance in the Regency era, you want to make sure that you are part of promos that are historical romance in the Regency era, not romance novels, right? Or even historical romance is still a little bit too broad to get exactly the right kind of people, because there's a lot of people reading in that. And that just means anything that's more than 30 years old, right? Like that's too big, because 1950 and Regency, not the same thing. So it's really important to understand your own niche very specifically, exactly where your books live, and then look at who do you have on your list. So it may require a bit of list purging if people are not kind of specifically related. It may require a little bit of waiting a little bit to get more organic signups, or to cleansing pretty hard the people who are jumping on. So maybe you do a wider promo, but then your first onboarding emails are all about, this is what I write. If you don't like this stuff, you should probably exit now, because this is exactly what we're doing right here. So don't worry about hanging on to everybody. Worry about hanging on to a smaller number of the right people. So if you want to do a bunch of broad promos, that's totally fine. Like, lots of people will read widely in different genres, but make sure you're bringing them in and then filtering who you keep, right? Because you want your core list to be really specific. I found the best way to get the volume in the beginning with the right people was to put the book for 99 cents for the first, for a 10-day pre-order period, and then the first week or so. And then usually within that, I can get a few hundred purchases, because people want to grab it for 99 cents. And a lot of the people on your list, if those are the ones that you put it up on pre-order, you immediately send to your list that it's up for pre-order for 99 cents, but that won't last long, so they should grab it now. And then you can resend to your list a time or two before that is ending, right? It gives you an excuse to get in touch with them as well. Like, you do a pre-order announcement, you do a, hey, book's going live tomorrow, have you pre-ordered it yet? You know, you can grab it at midnight if you have. And then another one that follows up a couple days later that says, this book is live and it's, you know, ready for purchase, but the 99 cent period is going to end in 48 hours or whatever. And then a last minute, like, hey, it's ending, if you haven't already grabbed it. And, you know, that will let you be in touch with people in a way that makes sense. You're doing them a favor by letting them know that this discount period is going to end. You'll get a few unsubscribes, and that's okay. You know, yeah. It's just being really proactive about that side. So the other advantage of the very short pre-order period is it doesn't count against your stats. If you have a really extended pre-order period, that book not selling well will count against your rankings, right? Because a lot of people don't do pre-orders. So you don't really want to do a big extended one unless it's like the last book of a series and you know that everyone who reads the previous books is going to want to pre-order that. But pre-orders are not doing well right now in the industry as a whole. There are some people just are not as keen to pre-order. So, and I don't know if they're waiting to see what the reviews are like before they commit on the next book, or if they're just holding on to their penny, like, you know, or whatever it is. I don't know, but people are not pre-ordering as much as they used to. So, and that's not stats from me, that's stats from other people reporting back who have a lot bigger of a pool to draw that information from. So, just an interesting thing. But if you do a short one, it lets all your SIN information get populated out to BookBub, Goodreads, everywhere, so that when you do your call for reviews from your ARC team, they have somewhere to put all their reviews right away, right? So that's really important, to set up that pre-order period, send out the pre-order notice to everybody, get your book into all the channels you want that stuff to be in, then call for reviews from your ARC team, so that when it actually drops on release day, everyone's ready. The second you send out that email to your ARC team that says, hey, everybody, it's live, you can post your reviews now, they can put everything up right away. And there's no roadblocks to that. You've already got your links to circulate. You can have your review product links all ready to go, everything else there. So that's just really helpful in terms of timing and in terms of making sure it's the right people. So if you start with your list and then you go out to any genre-specific groups you have, like if you're part of the historical romance writers group on Facebook, or the cozy mystery group over here, or your author forums. Like if you've got, if you're part of GVWA or the Creative Academy and you're in one of our genre teams, you can say, hey, everybody, I just did this. And can you spread it around amongst the right kind of readers, you know? And if they've got a genre specific list that fits yours, then just start as niche as you can and cycle out from there, right? So start with your inner circle and move out. And the scale of that is going to be different depending on where you're at in your career and in your list building and all of those things. So it's definitely, it's a bit more challenging to get those 200 downloads quickly if you are still at the beginning phase, but you just need to get as many as you can. And each one that you get, each set that you get is going to push you that much closer for next time. So, you know, focusing on sign up forms in the back of your books in the right place and using a little landing page sign up form that's super easy that people only just drop their email into and they don't have to go to your website to get signed up. That will really speed up your organic signups. And being as hardcore about writing to market as you possibly can, knowing your readers, knowing what they're liking, and then just really being brutally honest with yourself about whether or not you're delivering on that. And, you know, reading your reviews is a really good way to do that, even though I know a lot of people say don't read your reviews because it can be kind of soul crushing. I would rather read them and know what's not working for people and be informed.
Right.
Be careful about when you read them. You know, if your next task is to write a couple thousand words and hit your nano goals for the day, don't read them before that. Like, go write your words. Make sure you have a little bit of like bounce back processing time after you read the stuff before you're going back into something. Maybe just read it before you're ready to start the next book. Like, whatever it is, figure out what's going to work to keep yourself a little bit protected as well. Or have a friend read them and ask them to summarize the 5 key, if there was any consistent feedback that was popping up, can you just pull out, like, what did people say they were loving and what were things that people were highlighting as stuff that frustrated them or whatever. So go to the best and the worst and just see if there's anything that crops up a bunch of times, then that's a useful way to do it. Because you do need the feedback. Like, you really do need to know what people are bumping on. It definitely changed my strategy and the way that I've written certain books based on what people said about previous books, and then seeing things shift accordingly. So, you know, it, as much as we want it to only be about us as artists, it's also about giving readers what they want so they keep wanting more of it. And, you know, I think I posted on Glip, but I just released the box set and I put out a call for reviews to my list, not my review crew, just my list, and said, if anybody's read all of these, can you do me a favor and post a review? And yeah, it was like inside of 11 minutes, I think, of sending the newsletter, there was multiple reviews on every channel, like which is insane, but also the power of the newsletter list and the relationship with those people. And I could have told you before I looked which people those were, because I know who's active in terms of replying to stuff and whatever else. But it was fascinating to see it actually activated in that way, because I've never like tracked it quite like that before. So yeah, just paying attention, and, you know, just if maybe it's only 3 people, but that's okay. Like, it's just seeing action. 1 person to buy it gives you a rank. So you should be buying your first copy. I guess that was the other thing I didn't say. You should be buying your first copy of your book off Amazon, and you should have bought all of them. You should pay the money to make sure you have downloaded your own book, because that immediately populates your also bots with all your own stuff, and it also populates the rank. It gives you a rank. Someone has to buy it before that shows up. So both of those things will help increase the chances. You should also open it immediately and click through all the pages and make sure it's working properly, because it doesn't matter how careful you are in setup. Sometimes you don't realize that you won't get to your back matter, or that something's gone wrong in the publishing process and things are not what they should be. So, you know, that should be your first action the second you see it go live. And if you need to engage your list, you can put an email out to them that says, hey, everybody, I need you to tell me the second you see this book show up so that I can just download it and make sure everything's perfect. And they'll watch for you. They'll tell you. They like to have missions, things to do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. All right. So I'm noticing we are at the end of our time. I am going to hit stop recording, but we will be regrouping on Wednesday evening at 7. And in the meantime, if there is anything you'd like a little bit longer of a workshop-y focus session on, I'm happy to prep that and do that on Wednesday. So just let me know what it is in advance, and then we can set a half-hour time to focus in on one specific thing and take half hour for questions.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And we'll see you soon.